Here we are. So welcome everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic day. This week's virtual class is Mastering Negotiation. And in this step, we're going to be specifically helping you go from those feelings of feeling inadequate, outsmarted, and possibly broken negotiation to winning every negotiation every time on your terms. So here is an unusual disclaimer that I don't have for any other program that I do, and that is the skills that I'm going to share with you today, don't bring these home to your personal life. I know that's probably going to sound unusual and strange. You think to yourself, really? Like, why not? Because when you leverage some of these tactics at home in your personal life, you may win every argument. You may get everything that you're looking for on your terms, but you will. Not you could. You will find yourself lonely in the process. We have a little joke in my household. My wife, Wendy, will say to me, don't bring your work stuff home and try it on me. Now, team building and coaching and strategic leadership, yeah, that has a place. That's great. And it's easy to do so. And so much of the sales training that you get here will do as well. But this negotiation, yeah, we don't want to bring that in. So let's get started then. We have a few new people in the room, and I'm Bill Harvey, therefore owner and founder of this technology and system. So I hope that you're in a quiet place and only focused on me. You want to be sure to be taking notes because these sessions are fast and packed with information. You see, as I ascended the ranks of management and achieved my goal of becoming a franchise dealer principal, and then developing and facilitating these skills for my team, as well as then bringing it forward to being national sales training manager for Mercedes-Benz, Honda, Fiat, Chrysler, and Ford, it always intrigued me. How many guys and gals feel ill-prepared, outsmarted, and overrun when negotiating? And that's largely because they just wing it. I found that negotiating with shoppers on the right vehicle will sell in minutes as opposed to everyone else working overtime, slashing our grosses with just one shopper. That puts all your eggs in one basket. Mastering negotiation simply converts each and every time. This is why we have to focus on it. Now, just before we start, allow me a moment to familiarize everyone with the platform and set the room. If you're a Zoomer expert, please bear with me. If you're new to Zoom, it's really quite easy. If you see my lips moving, yes, there is sound, assuming that you're reading the subtitles. And I can see we don't have the subtitles on right now. So I hope that everybody's sound is working. You may have to minimize this window if you're trying to help somebody else figure out how to make their sound work, and click join with computer audio. Now, to be less disruptive of those around you, you want to think about connecting with earbuds or headphones. This definitely suggests that you are not available while staring at your computer screen. And if the app did not go to full screen, you may do so by clicking the upper right-hand corner. Now, I also think it's a great idea for you to put a sign up on your office door or on your desk that you are in a meeting and unavailable. This is for everybody in the dealership. This is not for customers. We want to be ready for those friendly customer interruptions, but for everybody else in the dealership, for the time being, for just 1 hour, we are not available to them. And that's what headphones and earbuds do. And of course, assigning your desk. If you position your pointer at the bottom of the screen, the toolbar will pop up. You can click on the chat button where another window will appear, and then you can send me a message. If you have any questions, you can post those to me here in the chat window function. And in any class setting, simple rules apply of being respectful, courteous, and polite. Here's the thing. If you see a question about webinar functionality or about negotiation and you know the answer, or you want to postulate an answer, feel free to do so. Contribute in the chat window. This is a community where we all get together like-minded and we're all on the same page individuals. I'll address all comments and questions at the end of the webinar if that's okay. And you'll have me for as long as it takes to answer all the questions. Now, if I ask you to give me a thumbs up or a smiley face, these reactions can be found on the toolbar. If you position your pointer at the bottom of the screen, the toolbar will pop up. If your toolbar is at the top of the screen, you put it up there, the toolbar will drop down. And then you just click on reactions and you can select the icon of your response. Let's test that now. Let me see who's paying attention. Give me a smiley face or a thumbs up from the reactions. And I'm looking for everybody on my other screen here. Well, give me a smiley face or a thumbs up. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. And Mackenzie, great job. Who else do we have there? And Nikita, well done. Thanks, Alex and Peter. Fantastic. You get out of the session what you put into it. Really, you do. And it makes it so much more interesting, right? When we're engaged. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate that. Great emoji. All right, then. Negotiating and closing are not the same thing. However, they do exist simultaneously. So you may or may not have to negotiate to close the deal. Did you know that? And I know what you're thinking. Hey, Bill, how can I get all my clients then to be a nice negotiator or not negotiate with me at all? Well, first of all, I have shared with you why and how that happens. We call them laydowns in the industry. You know that. It's not only the product, but it is the price, the location, and reputation that makes the difference for the decision for the shopper. But you make the whole decision easy and affordable for the shopper. And that's why we use those terms, easy and affordable payments. Let me share those with you because they know the price. They know where you're located. They know what the reputation is. They know the exact product they would like to have. They just don't know who to get it from yet. So the first step in the manifesto, that dynamic buyer odyssey, sets up the whole buying experience. And we need to know what that buyer behavior is like because no two customers are the same, no two negotiators are the same. This is why the dynamic buyer odyssey is the first step. So your communication strategy that permeates through all 8 steps and facilitates buying the desired vehicle that is affordable eliminates the necessity to negotiate on price. In that case, the stars are aligned. And we'll talk about how to do that. So assuming that you've facilitated the steps, all the steps all the way along to the sale, and the customer likes what they see, and obviously you've completed the value bridge. Well, let me clarify. Let me back up on that because this came up in a one-on-one session. And don't forget to book those one-on-one sessions. The value bridge is when the perceived value of an automobile exceeds the asking price, your asking price, the price that you are asking for, or the advertised price, or the MSRP. When the perceived value exceeds that number, the customer will say yes without negotiating. It really is as simple as that. The secret is not some slick trick or fast talk track, but your whole entire process, the 8 steps of the sale. Facilitating the 8 steps and gaining commitment through the overview, benefit, and permission commitment strategy, which is facilitated through each one of the steps at the interview because the interview forms the hub. This is how you confirm product superiority. Otherwise, you're just talking to yourself. This is what helps the customer really buy it. Now, negotiation, as mentioned, is not simply a step. It is actually a skill set. Albeit negotiation follows step 4 or 5 of the 8 steps to the process, but it is not the only one that a shopper needs to have to be convinced that their old vehicle isn't doing what they want it to, and the new vehicle is the only one that will. We need to make sure that we make that value bridge transition. They've transcended a shopping process. You know that, and they've completed the 5 steps. The challenge in today's marketplace, however, is how do we close without negotiating to preserve gross? Negotiating involves acting, following your process, getting that commitment all the way along, and that's your procedure within each one of those steps. These are the tactics. They're perfectly aligned to form your ideal strategy. So the first skill, acting, is understanding your buyer's behavior. This is why the manifesto starts off with buyer behavior. Your negotiation act and strategy are different for aggressive, talkative, listener, enthusiast buyers. An aggressive, dominant shopper will always attempt to negotiate. And they'll always use the classic takeaway, as in, well, I got to think about it. Or, is that your best deal? Or, and this isn't the first place that I'm going to buy at. Or, this is the first place I've visited. Or, I had no intention of buying today. When they don't get what they want, which is for you to lower your price, then they leverage this classic takeaway and they make you feel bad that they're going to walk away and you're going to lose out on a sale. It's only an act. Make sure you understand that. You may have to, and for all the managers in the room, bear with me, you may have to let them go. However, if you've built your value bridge, they'll come back and buy. This is why the B-back closing ratio is still in excess of 80%. It's 82% by my tracking methods. They want what you have. They're leveraging a tactic, hoping that you're going to run after them and beg and plead for them to buy it by lowering your price. Don't. Sometimes you build more customer service, you build more customer excitement, you increase the customer experience by not falling into their game and following along with their act of negotiation. So here's a quick story on it. This is the classic takeaway in play as a negotiation tactic. Rebecca had a shopper, one of our participants here, had a shopper that wanted and needed her product. His vehicle had quit. The shopper was a classic dominant aggressive behavior. The product being sold was brand new, but albeit a 2023. And this time of the year, it's customary for shoppers to think that they're doing such a huge favor for us of buying our past model inventory, even though it's brand new, has no mileage on. The inventory starts from the clock that's reading on the vehicle. So this aggressive shopping negotiator wanted a big discount and shot a figure at Rebecca, and she said no. She was recalling the whole story to me. She said it followed absolutely play by play, the exact way you describe it. It was absolutely perfect. And it was probably the first time I felt really comfortable saying no. She said, quite frankly, she said, the guy was so offensive and aggressive, I didn't actually want to sell him. So I was selling like I didn't need the sale. It was great. Now, this shopper was tough, and he tried every trick in the book. He said that he knew a guy down the road that the price was better. Now Rebecca knew that she had built a very strong, solid value bridge, that this guy hadn't been through a presentation and a demonstration like this before. He was staying with her. That's how she knew that what he was sharing with her wasn't exactly correct. She said the shopper was a little taken back and then tried another negotiation tactic that the guy said, well, I'll give you this much money for it. And I think she said that he said, include the tax. And then there was another one, split the tax with me. And then the really aggressive tactic, the one that I think offended her the most, was when the guy said, why don't you go ask your boss? And she said, no. She said it just like that. She hesitated. She paused. We're doing a one-on-one. She said, and I said, oh my gosh, you do that perfectly. If you gave him any hint, such as, okay, I'll go ask my boss. Now you just gave him hope that there's a possibility. And worse, if she had done that, when she came back and said, yeah, I know, the boss said no, I told you would say no. Now the guy can't save face and go, okay, well, I'll pay whatever you guys want now. That was still looming out there. She still had that in her back pocket. Worst case scenario, that she could play that card later on. Now, she leveraged probably the best line that I could ever dream of. And this comes from the objection handling formula. She said, the answer will be the same. You need to decide if I'm the one that you'd like to buy from, because this is the dealership that has it. And most importantly, is this the product that you really want to own? And she knew this guy's product, his other vehicle, had died completely. It was over. Then she leveraged scarcity and urgency by adding at the end, look, you're going to want to decide sooner than later, because while you go home and think about it, or you go down the road and see if you can actually get it for less, which she was very confident she couldn't, that this fella couldn't, rather. She said to him, this is the very product that someone else may have gone home yesterday to think about and is coming back today, and they're going to snatch it up on you. These tactics were used, these tactics are discussed, and I illustrate them extensively throughout step number 6. And of course, you use them during the inventory shortage. They were used extensively during the inventory. You know what it was like when you didn't have anything on the ground. You're like, that's the only one I got. Take it or leave it, because someone else is going to come along. It wasn't customer focus. It was reality. But we leverage those scarcity and urgency tactics because we had to. You can do the very same thing. They're still relevant today. Rebecca did. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for that story, Rebecca. The bottom line is, get comfortable with saying no. During step 6 of the purchase consultation and the activities of closing and negotiation, it's crucial. These are not separate steps either. They're just activities within the purchase consultation. transcending the shopping process of thinking, talking, research, touch, and feel, and the shopper is now here to buy, you need to focus on ownership. You don't need to focus on the latest and greatest, newest, slick, trick, or slimy talk track. That's not what puts deals together. You want to mirror match the behavior that you're dealing with. That's what gets under their skin. That's what the customer falls in love with. They don't know what it is, but it's deep back here in the subconscious. They just know that they want to deal with you. But if you're on the wrong vehicle, so let's go back to why that doesn't happen, why we can't close at step number 5. If we're on the wrong vehicle, meaning it's too expensive, or you give the impression that you can make it affordable, such as dropping the price, well, where's the value in that? Instead, present choices. It's almost like you have to start over, which if you don't have commitment and you aren't absolutely certain that when you walk up to the sales desk and you talk to the boss and the boss says, okay, where did they say that they would absolutely unquestionably own this vehicle that they want a best price on? If you can't specifically identify that moment in time, well, then I think it's a great idea that you start over. If you have commitment, then when you switch to a more expensive vehicle, yeah, take them up a notch or take them down a notch to a model down or introduce the pre-owned vehicle. These are the takeaways that you are leveraging with your customer. They're fantastic tactics. They're classic tactics of negotiation that'll help them make the decision on the one that you selected in the very beginning. But again, you've got to have facilitated that commitment strategy that I talk about at every step of the 8 steps of the sale. So how do you overcome objections and negotiate settlements then? Well, I do with a strategic process called interrupting their negotiating pattern. You see, we start to negotiate a little late in life in Western world. So some customers have a better negotiation system than what you have, but you can interrupt their pattern even though they may know a lot about negotiation. And it's as simple as doing this, offering choices. When the shopper has choices, they feel like they're in control. When they're in control, they like you. Just like Rebecca did, be comfortable with no. She leveraged the objection handling formula, and that guy purchased as a result of it. Was it the formula that closed the deal? Absolutely, unquestionably, because the negotiation tactic, his acts, his negotiation tactics were non-ethical, non-truths. The better deal down the road is the classic example. If he could have, he would have. She gave him every opportunity to leave. She didn't handcuff his hands to the armchair of the chair that he was sitting in. She didn't close the door. She didn't say, you're not leaving until you buy. She didn't pull a weapon out of her desk and say, do it or die. Let's summarize that deal then. He wanted her product. He could not actually get a better deal down the road. And he realized that someone else might buy it before him. That overshadowed the value of dealing locally, getting it now from a confident, competent salesperson who helped the shopper see themselves getting what they wanted, right? The 1-minute salesman, Spencer Johnson. So you see yourself getting what you want. She did not present another vehicle because, well, there just wasn't another one in her exact words to present, but she did offer choices so that he felt like he was in control. And of course, that objection handling formula demonstrates that perfectly. And again, I delineate that objection handling formula absolutely perfectly in step number 6 of the online on-demand manifesto, right there as indicated on the slide. So you should know by now that my negotiation strategies will quickly win every deal every time on your terms and improve your vehicle sales without feeling inadequate or outsmarted. While you will hear and learn talk tracks that work for others, they don't work with every single shopper because no two shoppers are the same. When you have commitment throughout the process, you won't get pushback from customers because of old, outdated, confusing, and familiar tactics. Familiar tactics. Unquestionably, 100 years worth of selling automobiles, and our customers are starting to learn our talk tracks and our tactics. Now we have to go more into the theory of the step as opposed to relying on if I could, would you? If for the same payment is slightly more or less, would you take it? They're familiar with hearing this. These are the familiar tactics. You simply close them by offering choices And that's the customer focused approach to selling, but especially in negotiation. So my next comment is that the worst advice in the world that you could receive, or you could say, or you could even attempt to do is take control of your customer. When you attempt to control your customer, you're forcing a decision, such as what would it take to earn your business? And then really exert the pressure on them, say today, right? While you think it's being helpful, you're forcing them to make a decision that you don't know how they may react. If you believe some level of control is necessary to close the deal, then make sure you know the answer to your choices that you're offering and act accordingly. Now, I'll never be so bold as to say that talk tracks do not work, but timing is the secret. You need to have earned that know, like, and trust badge of honor to close, and you do so by offering more and less expensive choices, negotiating to yes. If you've not subtly or obviously offered the model up or the model down or the pre-owned and received a no, 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 then how would you know with any kind of certainty that the only one that you've presented is the only one that they're going to take? You need that level of certainty, especially going into negotiation. So getting to yes, there are two types of negotiators, nice and not so nice. The challenge is that all negotiators appear like nice ones. And so all of a sudden, at some point during the interaction, the sales process, especially step number 6 here, the purchase consultation, now their true colors come out, as some would say. I think they start acting, and they start acting like not so nice because they're not really getting their way. It's like children. You meet children for the first time. You like all children. It's like pets. You meet dogs and cats for the first time, and they're all smiley and nice and cooperative. And then, of course, you spend some time with them and they start to, well, especially when they get bored or they don't get their own way or they're hungry, they start to act out and do things to get your attention. That's exactly what a not so nice negotiator does. The reality is 83% of shoppers don't like to negotiate. They don't want to negotiate with you. They don't like to do the act of negotiating. And that's largely because we start negotiating so late in life in North America. And that means that other cultures of the world, especially in a multicultural metropolitan center, will have much better negotiators than we are as living in North America. But the point is, negotiation is a skill that can be learned. By the way, that 83% is based on research. My research at the Automotive Business School of Canada and the National Automobile Dealers Association at Northwood University with my colleague Joe Lascata. Simple math states that only 17%, therefore, actually like to negotiate. So while you think that everyone wants to, the majority prefer to simply ask for a deal, essentially making sure that your price is fair. So I have done the very same thing with essentially every purchase, every significant purchase I've ever made. And you probably do too. Homes, businesses, ATVs, snowmobiles, cars, trucks, dirt bikes, furniture, and even bicycles. I always ask, is that the best that you can do? If not, well, then I'll get a better deal, right? They'll automatically, if you're the salesperson, you automatically discount it. And regardless of whether I can get a better deal or not, I've made the conscious decision to purchase it. And if you have taken me across the value bridge and I see the difference from the old one to the new one and everything that this will do for me, then I'll purchase regardless of negotiation. But I'll ask, unquestionably, I'll ask. We all do. It's natural. So closing does not address, however, overcoming objections. And I know we're not talking about closing today, but sometimes the lines get a little bit blurred, right, between closing and negotiation. In negotiation, we get objections, and negotiation is about overcoming those objections. These are the most common objections that I can think of. If you have others, text me in the chat. Let me know what those other objections are. Objections appear in two versions, two forms, and you probably know this unconsciously, but maybe you didn't, maybe you haven't delineated, maybe you haven't spelled it out like this for yourself. The two forms, number one, are stalls, and number two, conditions. So average ordinary trainers have taught tactics for decades, and still, quite frankly, to this day. If you go on YouTube and you have a look at, do a search for selling automobiles or how to sell automobiles or car sales tips, tricks, and tactics, most of what you're going to see is about overcoming objections, closing, negotiating to yes, and all the rest of it. And of course, I'm guilty of doing the very same thing. But remember, we're trying to play into what you're looking for, which the algorithm sorts out for us. And we want to appear at that top of that search. And maybe at the time you're struggling with getting to yes, and it is all about negotiation, those tactics. But if you haven't set the sale up correctly, if you haven't done those 8 steps, if you haven't facilitated the overview, benefit, permission, commitment strategy, then yeah, negotiation is going to be a very significant role at the end, but it'll cost you money because the customer's not going to negotiate to MSRP. The customer's going to negotiate from that, right? And this is what I mean by ordinary to average trainers who taught these tactics for decades, and our customers are becoming familiar with it. And by simply discounting with tricky talk tracks, it's not enough anymore. Would you or a loved one, think about this. Would you or a loved one, and any one of your loved ones, would you want them going into an automobile dealership, a power sport dealership, to be tricked into buying? I don't think so. So let's talk about the customer focus approach and really make this work in our favor. Objections. Objections are simply stalls or non-specific reasons. Well, one category of objections are stalls, non-specific reasons not to buy, such as I want to think about it, or I need to talk to my spouse, or I'm not getting enough for my trade-in, or I can get a better price elsewhere. Really, they're essentially all excuses, right? Always remind yourself that the shopper is here to buy, that the shopper has transcended that journey. Those 5 steps, right? Thinking, talking, research. They know how much the automobile costs. Touch and feel. They know what it looks like. They've even talked to somebody about how it rides and drives and the enjoyment of ownership. They've even probably asked that individual, what are they paying for their vehicle? They probably even asked them, what did they pay for it? How much of a discount did they get? And now step number 5, they're here to see you. Now you can debate with me. I get it. You can debate with me that the trade-in is a physical hurdle, not a physical metaphor hurdle, that they're not getting enough for their vehicle, but it's still just an excuse. Because think about it. How many shoppers are capable of selling an automobile? How many shoppers even have room in their driveway to park their old vehicle when the new one arrives in the driveway? How many shoppers know the process of selling a pre-owned automobile? And certainly in our province, there's a process to go through that the buyer may ask for these documents, and this individual has just slapped or thinks they're going to slap a for sale sign in the window and hope that will do it. Is I'm not getting enough for my trade-in really an objection? Or is it simply another way of saying, look, is that the very best you can do? If you really need a tricky talk track to help them buy, then try this. That wouldn't stop you from owning it, would it? Try that. That's the most obvious of the entire bunch, right? It doesn't say anything about price. It doesn't say anything about more choices. It just point blank, you're not giving me enough for my trade-in. Would that stop you from buying it? And what's the customer going to say? Yeah, that'll stop me from buying. Okay, well, give me some idea of what you were thinking. We probably have $100, $200, or $300 that we can stretch on that trade. Did you hear that, gang? I've got $100, $200, or $300 that we can stretch on this deal. I would never leave the door wide open at the end of that. Wouldn't stop you from buying. And they say, yes, it would. You're not giving me enough for my trade. Okay, what do you want for your trade? I wouldn't leave that door open. You've got to immediately answer that question, because if you leave the door open and you're giving them, let's put it into real numbers, you're giving them $8,000 for their vehicle. What do they want for it? What do you think they're going to say? Text me in the chat. What do you think somebody wants for an $8,000 vehicle? Text me in the chat. I know what they want for it. I know what I would want for it if I was. Thanks, Dan. Anybody else? Text me in the chat. It's an $8,000 trade in. They're saying you're not giving me enough for that trade. More than 8, Hamid, you got it. There we go, Mark. I was thinking 15, 16, right? That's exactly correct, Mark. That's what they see it listed for on Marketplace, on Kijiji, on Auto Trader, on Car Pages. The list goes on and on. They don't go to Black Book and look at rough. They could definitely do so. Nah, they go to the retail sector. And that's why they say, you're not giving me enough for my trade. But again, it comes back to, if you need a talk track, that wouldn't stop you from owning it, would it? And they go, well, don't be surprised. Like, don't go deer stuck in the headlights look if all of a sudden this client goes, no, it wouldn't stop me from buying it. You go, okay. So you'll, okay. That would kill them, right? They're like, why are you frozen? Why are you stuck in the deer, like a deer stuck in the headlights? Look, I just said, no, it wouldn't stop me from owning, and I'll go ahead. Don't be surprised if you get that. I've had it. All this stuff that I share with you is tried and tested out there on the showroom floor. Unquestionably, this stuff works. However, right now, this time of the year, when the doors aren't swinging, the phone isn't ringing that much, we get the freaks and the weirdos coming in. And that'll be with that talk track. That wouldn't stop you from owning it. Fully expect them to say no. This is the other part of the equation of negotiation. Know the answer to your question. So when they say no, now you know what to say. Well, what were you thinking? And now we add, well, we've probably got a little bit of wiggle room, like $100, $200, $300, like $50, $100, $150 leeway. Maybe I could convince the used car buyer to add a little bit, or we'll chisel a little off the sale of the new vehicle. But don't leave that door open for them to think that, well, you've offered me 8, I need 16, and we'll just negotiate somewhere in between. That's 12. That's crazy money, right? If your used car manager, used car buyer has that much latitude, well, then I wouldn't imagine that you're winning very many deals. All right. And nipping the trade is part of the equation. I get it, but I don't think you'd be nipping it by 50% in order to be able to come to that. However, you certainly could, because if you've read your client as an aggressive, assertive, dominant buyer, you know that if you offer them 16, they're going to ask for 24. So if you can get a value of 16 and you think they're really going to hard act negotiate with you, then it wouldn't hurt for you to start off at 50%. You know that customers always object to price, so you may as well give them something to object to. However, for the most part, if we have an appraisal at 8, it's reasonable that the client wants 12, 13, 14. Maybe they're hoping to get 16, and they'll settle on somewhere around $82, $83, $84, $8,500, worst case scenario. But if you don't leverage that talk track, then getting to the biweekly, the monthly, especially with the rise of inflation, is going to make your life that much more difficult. I just wanted to share that with you. Tricky talk tracks aren't the solution. Choices are. Now, conditions are specific reasons that a shopper presents why they cannot buy. Conditions, as listed here, certainly stop the deal from moving towards the close. Interest rates, colors, features, options, down payment, selling price. This is where your ability to negotiate will close more deals. When you present choices and the shopper can say yes or no, that helps you refine and funnel them down to a sale. Conditions are not necessarily stopping points, but they certainly are much more difficult to overcome than stalls. So for instance, the interest rate is a concern. Offer short-term and long-term amortization schedule. So that's your biweekly and your monthly payment schedule, because the interest rate fluctuates with those terms, right? They want a low interest rate, then calculate payments on the low interest rate, which is going to be a high payment, right? And I know you're going to have an objection with that, but you gave them what they wanted, low interest rate that comes with this payment. They'll pay it off quicker as well. It's all in their advantage, and make sure you sell that. If color is a condition, you know how to handle that. Second and third choice of color, fourth choice, fifth choice, sixth choice, right? If you're really limited on selection, you're still experiencing the inventory shortage, and you just don't have the colors, then go down the list. What's your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth, ninth, 10th choice of color? You could suggest painting it and wrapping it and all the rest of it. And I'm not going to go into that. And you know that's going to cost a lot of money anyhow. And that's going to be the pushback regardless. But if you go to that second and third choice color, well, what if they say, no, I don't have a second or third choice color? Okay, what would you not accept? And do an elimination round of 10 colors, which they would never, ever take. And of course, if you get them to do one of these, you know that choice is in consideration. And then you could go in that direction and say, have you ever had a white, blue, black, dark color, light color, silver, gray, electric blue, Hawaiian orchid color before? Why not treat yourself this time? If you're quoting biweekly with nothing down, it's really hard to convince them of an equity position by putting money down after you've already quoted no money down. And remember, customers will always object to price. I giggle at that because this is the common theme, the common question that I get so often in one-on-ones. They're like, Bill, the price is so much. Like in some cases, people's biweekly has tripled. I get it. So put money down. Start by quoting $2,500, $5,000, and $10,000 down. It's in the customer's favor, especially if there's interest on the loan. This immediately puts them in an equity position. With the sudden rise of inflation, and especially with home prices, banks are calling and hounding your clients all the time to remortgage their house, go to a little lower down payment, pay off some expenses, and increase their line of credit. So $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 down probably has room on a line of credit. If this individual doesn't, could they borrow it from mom or dad to be in an equity position, have a monthly payment that is very comfortable? They can pay that other loan to mom or dad back at whatever pace they want to. And now nobody is stressed going into a fragile economy. The secret is you just ask. This is negotiating without giving up gross. The buyer, again, will have equity in their position, and more importantly, will getting them approved will make that whole approval process a whole lot easier. With either of these objections, you can respond with, I get it. If you don't get everything the way you want, there is no way that you will buy. This is the talk track. I get it. This is the condition talk track. I get it. If you don't get everything the way you want, then you will not buy. I get it. That shows empathy, doesn't it? Not sympathy, but it shows empathy. You understand their position. Then you finish off with, don't leave the door open there because that's nothing. Now we need to ask a question. So may I suggest, this is negotiation when you're communicating. However, silence is a tactic in negotiation. I'll talk about that, where you can exert some pressure. Again, you must have commitment through every step of the sales process. So here's the reality. Managers in the room, you're going to love this. If you skip a step, you didn't get commitment. If you skip a step, you didn't get commitment. That is why you're not able to close deals. I hope you really get that. All right. The manifesto is a resource for you to go from not knowing how to win every negotiation to doing so every time on your terms. Mastering negotiation will take you from those feelings of inadequate, outsmarted, and broke to winning every deal every time on your terms. This is the reason why you've got to go back to the manifesto over and over and over again. Because let's face it, there are winners and losers with respect to negotiation, and not very much in between. Winners and losers. Yes, we want to think that we negotiate to win-win, but negotiation is a process that we use to get what we want when someone else has or controls that. When you bridge with what their old car cannot or will not do with what the new car will do, negotiation fades away. It's become less important than ownership. Remember, don't leave that door open. If I just said negotiation fades and becomes less important, you go, less important than what? Like if they can save money, they want to. I know. But negotiation fades when it becomes less important than ownership. That's the value bridge. I hope I'm making that super clear. Negotiating features, options, and colors, you do so on the walk around. Negotiating delivery time, you do so on the demonstration drive. Negotiating down payments, you do walking into the showroom. And don't ever negotiate vehicle price or biweekly or monthly payment until you've got commitment and you're sitting at your desk. talk car on your feet, price in your seat. You're talking about commitment to take delivery of the car all the way along, but you talk price at your seat. This is why mastering negotiation is step number 6 in selling intelligence phase. It wouldn't make any sense for me to move that forward into the first phase or move it up ahead of the steps of the sale, buyer behavior, and the presentation secrets. Because if you haven't completed those steps, you don't have commitment and they won't buy. It's plain and simple. So, well, great comment, Nikita. The advertised price is the only price that you present until you've had an opportunity to show them and demonstrate to them what a world-class vehicle will do. And I would say those things to them. If they're still persistent on how much is it going to be, then you've got to get commitment on that advertised price is in the ballpark. Now, if they've got a trade-in, they're hoping that the trade-in is going to lower the price of the vehicle so that they're in the right ballpark, then you could simply say, based on the advertised price, not including your trade-in, which will lower the price, without a trade, are we on the right vehicle based on the advertisement? That can steer and guide and direct you and them to get on the right vehicle. Does that answer your question? Give me a thumbs up or a smiley face that could work. And I'm only making reference to that when we're talking car on our feet. Great. Now, when you get inside and you've had commitment all the way through and you're sitting at your seat, then I've got some tracks coming up for you. Stay tuned. So write that link down. Put this link. I'm just going to move my face out of the way. There we go. Write that link down just underneath the 6-figure income manifesto. Mastering negotiation, being the second phase of sales intelligence, will help you increase your closing rate as defined by the playbook and the blueprint. Now, write the link down if you don't feel that you are closing at a 1 in 4 closing ratio and moving towards a 1 in 3. If you're stuck at 1 in 2 or worse, 1 in 10, then write that link down and schedule time with me. We've got to get you to those 1 in 3, 1 in 4 numbers, because as we move forward in seasonality, the holiday season, the winter season, you're going to have fewer opportunities to sell automobiles. We need to make sure that we're most effective with every single one of those. And I'm really not spitting figures here. These numbers are your numbers. If you're not tracking it, you cannot fix and improve it. So share those with me. Write that link down. Book a one-to-one session with me. Negotiation is becoming more prevalent as this market corrects, as we move into a more fragile economy and it starts to tighten. And of course, as you start to receive more product and the inventory shortage starts to go away and customers don't think there is a scarcity and urgency trend anymore. You need to know how to get what you want when someone else has or controls something that you want. This way you'll close more deals on your terms, spending less time on the sales process, making more money, not having to work any harder to maintain and grow your income. Now, just so you know, you're in the right place. I want to underscore this exact system reflects the process that I have taught thousands of salespeople, just like you throughout North America, to quickly and predictably win every deal on their terms and achieve their sales goals. We're not talking about chasing goals. Write that link down, because I'll share with you the system to accomplish your goals. Look, when you chase goals, you struggle. When you say, I want to sell 15 cars this month, and you have no idea how you're going to do that, you will struggle. Mark my words, unquestionably. But when you have a system, and this is the system, and you've got me one-on-one, as well as these classes, and that on-demand learning management platform, this is your system to assure that you will hit your goals and you will get to where you want to be. There is no two ways around it. It's as easy as simply delineating that. And I just need to get a picture of, there we go, the attendance list. Excellent. Okay, moving right along then. You know you're in the right place. In short, this is what's working. And I know trying to win every deal on your terms and ultimately performing at your maximum potential can be a challenge. That's why we're here. If you want to make more, you have to learn more. Average ordinary salespeople don't. They keep hoping and praying Their whole sales strategy is hope. They hope the doors are going to start swinging. The up bus drops off a load of hungry, anxious customers. It just doesn't happen. And as we go forward in a fragile economy and a slower economy and seasonality, regardless of how great the economy is, every winter it's slowed down, even through the inventory shortage. So here's another concept that I want you to integrate into your negotiation. And that is that the person that stands to gain or lose in negotiation wins. Let me repeat that. The person who stands to gain or lose the most wins in negotiation. So with the rising rate of biweekly, monthly, MSRP, and aging automobiles on the roadway, more of us are feeling inadequate, outsmarted, and broken. Always remember you are not alone. I'm here as your personal coach to help you gain the competence so that you're confident in the risk and the conflict zone in negotiation. Again, write that link down. Add it to your swipe file. I will include the link in the description below when I edit this video and post it on YouTube. The link can also be found in the on-demand. It's also found in the files tab of the Facebook group, and it is also found obviously in our Google Drive accounts there. Put it in your favorites. And at the end, at the adjournment slide, my telephone number will be there. Don't hesitate to call, text, leave me a voicemail. I will return your call. You can schedule coaching sessions as often as you like. I know just about every day that you are experiencing this because I hear the same questions from folks like you trying to win every deal on your terms. First and foremost, Bill, how do I get to yes when they just say no to everything? I know that's happening more frequently now, right? Interest rates, inflation, fragile economy. Secondly, if our dealership will not entertain offers and negotiate price, do I still need negotiation skills? Well, Saturn's gone. Toyota tried the fixed price. There is an only price concept and theory floating around out there and convincing dealers to move towards it. And I think it's a great idea. But the bottom line is your negotiation skills, even though price is not negotiable, must be even crisper and more eloquent and more unconscious because you don't have that last ditch effort to lower price. So yes, and follow closely by Bill, will I really make more money if I become a master negotiator? Well, I can't believe how often I hear that one. Of course, there are countless other questions that I hear all the time, and I'll cover those and many others in the manifesto. But the questions that I really want to hear are the one-on-one sessions that you book with me, because those are the ones that I can address specifically for you. The first place to get help is with the Facebook mastermind group, where you can immediately get answers to your questions if somebody else sees it before I do. Be humble, ask for help. This is how we prosper. Then pay it back by helping someone else in the group. Don't ever offer advice that is not requested. Of course, that won't happen in the group. I'm specifically talking about in your dealership. When you embrace the concept of the virtual community, you'll feel so much more certain and confident. Now, asking for help is a smart and efficient thing to do, and it's the reason many of us don't, or the real problem is that we don't have a clear point A to point B negotiation system that is really easy to follow. So again, write that link down. This is the clear roadmap that's been proven to help you win every deal every time on your terms, no time flat. It's something that just makes sense, because if you're struggling to get to a 1 in 3 closing ratio, then book a coaching session with me, and let's iron out what you need to be doing to become confident in the risk and the conflict zone. So let me ask you this. Do you like negotiating with shoppers, or do you dread it? Type yes or no in the chat. Do you like negotiating with shoppers, or do you dread that? Type yes or no in the chat. Do you like it, or do you fear it? You know, I said it before, only 83% of shoppers like to negotiate, right? Meaning 17%, good for you, Steve. Excellent, Peter. 83% don't like to negotiate. The reality is, thanks, Mike, it's on a sliding scale, right? There isn't a black and white line. There isn't an invisible line, pardon me, excuse me, that shoppers step over and all of a sudden they don't want to negotiate, or they do want to negotiate. It doesn't work like that. An aggressive shopper, one behavior of 4, will always want to negotiate. Talkatives, well, they'll try and ask. Listeners, we don't know where they're at, but they may accidentally, by not saying anything, get a good negotiated deal. Thanks, Nikita. Thanks, Peter. And of course, enthusiasts, well, they rarely negotiate because they just don't like it. They don't spend any time on it. They spend all the time on the automobile. That's why I call them an enthusiast. Now, interestingly enough, the common thread with all shoppers was that everybody started negotiation and disliked the experience, or when surveyed, disliked the experience of buying an automobile based on negotiation. Everybody said that, including the aggressives. And this is no different in power sports. So when we asked shoppers what they really wanted, they responded with lowest, best, and even selling at cost on the vehicle was not the deciding factor. What they wanted was the vehicle of their choice. What they wanted was to be sold, which means they wanted the presentation demonstration. Only aggressive buyers will walk away from you, and quite frankly, maybe they won't come back. You may not even want them back as well, but only the aggressive shopper will leverage the classic takeaway, thinking that they're in control. As they are, they write the check, but they're not in control of the process, which is where you said someone else is thinking about it and probably coming back tonight to buy it. And of course, the other 3 behaviors will politely accept your information, and that may still ghost you. The consistency is that from luxury brands through domestics and imports, it works this way. If you've not effectively built that value bridge, any price that you present during negotiation will likely be a shopping license to hunt around. That's why I keep driving forward and bringing home the sales process and leveraging that overview, benefit, commitment strategy. So what is negotiation? Well, this is my definition, as I've alluded to all the way along. I've tucked it in and I've hinted at it all the way along. Negotiation is a process that we use to get what we want when someone else has or controls something that we want, which means not only do you negotiate, the consumer's negotiating, right? But the definition is twofold, because you have the product that they want and they have the money or can get finance to buy it that you need and want, for that matter. It's how you get paid a commission. So this is where the term win-win may come from, that we're both aligned in that we have what each other wants, and somehow we need to negotiate an affordable scenario so that we can all win-win. That's my best definition for win-win. I don't necessarily believe that win-win exists. I think somebody always feels like they got taken, but that's where negotiation is an act, and you make them feel like they took you for granted. For instance, here's the process that we use to get what we want when someone else has or controls what we want. Here's the worksheet, and worksheets were built on this as well. And you can access this from Google Drive, from Facebook files, from the on-demand online session. You can walk customers through it, but this is how your worksheet was actually created. Here's what most automotive sales trainers don't tell you. The sample worksheet, again, found in those locations, you can use. When a shopper says, what's your best price, or it's too much, and I'll put a link in the description of the replay on how to work through that. On a blank piece of paper, write down the selling price, just as we have it here, $67,997. This is for demonstration purposes only. I don't advocate that you work off of selling price. The numbers are huge. Work off of bi-weekly so you can get commitment on affordability. But let's assume the shopper forces you to stay on gross price. Never use the thousands or hundreds when you describe that price. And I teach why in the closing aberration of step number 5. So go back and review that. On the next line, write down any OE or other displayed discounts and use the words to describe the dollars highlighting the discount. Do you hear the difference? Adding hundreds and thousands. So on that next line, we'll start talking about the manufacturer's discount of $1,297 discount. Again, this is covered extensively in the closing aberration, phase 2, step number 5 in the manifesto. The next line is what comes out of your pocket. So this is where you start to get real with how much of a discount you have to play with, because it comes out of your pocket. You're going to lose a percentage of that discount based on your commission. Be careful how much you knock off, because it's great to show movement, but you don't want to give the farm away. You may have to wiggle a little bit more. So let's knock off $300. It's not much on a 60K deal. I get it. But don't think about that. Just ask the shopper for their approval, like, when would you like to take delivery? And then see what they'll do. If you struggle with this, if you find this difficult, if you don't see how this would work for you, write down, let me move my picture out of the way again, write down that example right there, right? Not the example, pardon me, write down that link to a coaching session, or pardon me, that's the Google Drive. Sorry, that's the Google Drive. That's not the coaching session. Write down that link to be able to get this worksheet if you would like to work through on that. Now, remember I said there are two types of negotiator earlier, the nice one and the mean one. So number one, 15% of the population are the mean ones. This plays part and parcel with the 17% that like to negotiate, right? These are the tough, thick-skinned, lone wolf, hard-edged negotiators. They like to pound the table and scream and yell and tell you that your price is too much, and they get a better deal down the road and throw, it's a cash deal, and throw the taxes in. These are the ones that will say or do anything at all costs to win. They have no care about buying a second vehicle from you. They don't care if you like them or dislike you. They'll do or say anything to win, which includes a tactic of lying. They negotiate like there's no future to be had. Then there's the nice negotiator. And the nice negotiator is 85% of the population. And again, goes part and parcel with my statistic that 83% don't like to negotiate, right? These people negotiate like there is future in mind. They want you to be their car guy, their car gal. They want to come back and see you for their second, third, fourth, fifth vehicle. They're nice. They're truthful. Their word is their bond. They value their reputation. They don't want you to describe them as a wolf. They're honest, and they say things like, the world is small, the industry is small, what goes around comes around. And of course, they get taken advantage of, and they get it. But knowing when you are negotiating is just as important as knowing who and how to negotiate. You enter negotiation being the risk in the conflict zone when somebody says no, like Rebecca's example earlier. It sounds obvious, but I get this question all the time. Bill, when do I start the negotiation process? Well, first of all, you don't start it unless someone has said no. That could be you, or it could be them. If you do not hear no, then close the deal with, write this down. When would you like to take delivery? Today, tomorrow, or 2 days from now, as in Monday? Don't wait for them to say, well, what's your best deal? Or how much can you knock off? Or I can get a better deal down the road. The Lord gave you 2 ears, one mouth. Let's do twice as much listening as talking, and you'll get the buying signals to close deals in negotiation. Now, do you know the old adage, the first person who speaks loses? This is another tactic, right, in negotiation. This is the silence tactic I alluded to earlier. Type yes or no in the chat. You are familiar with, and even better, you do leverage this tactic of the first person who speaks loses. Okay, Mike, Mark, good for you. Good. Do you know why you were told that? Do you think, Steve, do you know why you were told that the first person who speaks loses? Text in the chat why you were told that the first person who speaks loses. Because sometimes okay, yeah, it could be weakness, Mark. Yeah, it's not my definition. Anybody else? Any idea why the first person who speaks loses? You see, when the opposition says no, then you should not say anything. Thanks, Nikita. When the opposition says no, you don't say anything. That looked a little awkward, didn't it? I went quiet for a little bit there. Yeah, Mike, I'm back. Absolutely. Sit back in your chair. Don't say anything for like a few minutes, like 15 minutes, right? That's the secret to it. Good comment, Nikita. No one will outlast you if you hold out and go silent for 15 minutes. They will naturally want to talk. There's how you get the first person to speak loses. But the only reason, see, this is the part that nobody told you why that is so important. What you need to do, what you want to do, is isolate and refine that objection. What are they saying no to? Is it the color? Is it the delivery time? Is it the interest rate? Is it the biweekly? Is it the down payment? Is it lease or is it finance? Or what are they saying no to? Those conditions and objections and stalls may not even come up. That's why you go silent. It's like you're shocked. This is the chance that you get to leverage another tactic to keep the deal together. Silence is a source of power in negotiation. But here's the problem with silence. If you're not communicating, you're not getting the yes. Someone will have to speak at some time. And that's the reason why somebody told you the first person who speaks loses, because you have to remain confident and competent in being deathly silent, which is the risk in the conflict zone, which is no. That's the concept of first person who speaks loses. So if you didn't know that, this is how you leverage it. So let's go back to our worksheet example. Let's assume that they don't agree and you feel a need to keep the deal moving along. You could lower your price. And again, this is coming out of your pocket now. So be conservative, be frugal with this money. You could drop another $150 and ask them for their approval by scheduling a time for delivery. Again, I didn't ask for their approval on the number. I'm asking for when would they like to pick it up? Do you hear the perfect alignment of those tactics? Price, delivery, approval. This is the negotiation strategy close. Price, delivery, approval. These price drops are necessary to demonstrate your inability to lower the price. This is how you preserve gross in this market right now. If you drop 1,000, if you drop 2,000 in the very beginning, clients like, keep going, keep going. You're doing good. Who's controlling the negotiation when that happens? They are. You need to be in control of the negotiation. You do so by doing it like this. They may not say yes, but you did not ask. What would it take to earn your business and get some silly, ridiculous discount answer like Rebecca did at 50% of what it sells for, right? I think that guy was comparing her brand new vehicle with a used one. Oh my gosh. Either the person selling it used isn't asking enough, or this guy has no idea how to negotiate like she was. That's the reason I think that why we started the one-on-one. She said, I got to tell you the story. It's absolutely crazy. Keep that deal moving forward, presenting discounts so that you can afford to maintain value. Now, here are some ways to be more comfortable in negotiation. Number one, you need to consider your worst case scenario. They'll walk away and you just don't get the deal. Sometimes you don't want this deal. If their price is that low, why would you pay them to drive away in your vehicle? Second, in best case scenario, they're going to take delivery of it now. Third, time heals all wounds. You're going to do and say things to each other that aren't necessarily equitable, but given enough time, they'll come around. And of course, put them into your long-term follow-up and aggressively follow up and sell them again. Negotiation, we're going to say or do things to each other that are not necessarily equitable. So recognize it is not personal. Don't take it personally. Don't say something that is unethical that could offend them, but you don't take it personally. You need to believe in your own position that is strong, you got a great price, and that these people are saying you don't have a good price. They are only acting, because that's what negotiation is. Now, we leverage in the automobile business the absolute perfect tactic of the external advisor. When you say, okay, let me go up to the boss and make sure that I can get you this time for delivery, or I can approve this price. This gives you an opportunity to step away from the equation, think of another way to go back, and potentially get a bump if necessary. But prepare yourself in advance. That's what training is. I'm doing the teaching and introducing you to these concepts and tactics. You need to practice with yourself in advance with friends and family. Don't practice and prepare with the customer, because that'll just make it fall all apart. And quite frankly, because of your incompetence, they'll be unhappy and angry and threaten to leave every single time. That's why role play and practice and training is so crucial. So you must learn to be stable in the risk and the conflict zone. Let's go back to our worksheet example. Let's do another price drop. This is the last one. This is it. On a $60,000 product, we're offering $50 off. Are you thinking this is crazy? Only $50 off a $60K purchase? Good. You're seeing what the customer's seeing then. That little voice inside their head is saying, well, there can't be as much profit in the deal as I thought then. And by gosh, don't forget to ask for the sale when they're just staring at the $50. And you do so with your permission, indicated by a deposit. I will go and get a time for delivery. You don't ask them, is that okay? Will that do it? Another 50 bucks off. If we got a deal, can I shake your hand? You can watch other people do that all day long and they can have success with it, but it doesn't work with every single negotiator. No two customers are the same. No two negotiation scenarios are the same. This works with every single customer. With your permission, I will go and get a time for delivery. With your permission indicated by a deposit, I will go and get a time for delivery. The shopper will either agree or they may say, that's not what I was thinking. And now they shoot a price at you. I guarantee you this much, and I guarantee it. I don't guarantee anything more than death and taxes, but I will guarantee this. Whatever price they were thinking in their head is not the price they're going to blurt out of their mouth because they don't want to embarrass themselves. They've just seen how you've dropped to 66.2, and now they realize there isn't as much in it. Maybe they're still going to offer you 55 or 58 or 60 or 62 or 64, whatever the case is, but they're not going to offer you 40. They're not going to offer you 30. Again, this is covered extensively in the manifesto. I want to encourage you to go back and review step number 6 again, or even better, book a one-on-one with me. There is the link right there. Oh, I don't have the link on there. My apologies. And with that, I'm slightly over time. My apologies for doing so. Block time in your calendar every single Thursday. We will be meeting at 10 o'clock next week, Eastern Standard Time. Once again, we'll be moving forward into the blueprint. This is the perfect time of the year to be doing the blueprint. If you want me to hold you accountable to the blueprint, you can send me page 15 and 16 of October. And then also send me page 4 and page 6 of now November as you've opened your month once again. And this will give us the system, the plan for you to be able to accomplish your goals. Can you make a double-digit month out of November? Yes, absolutely. But you need to follow a system. And you're welcome, Mark. Thanks so much for joining me. And you need to have that plan, because a goal without a plan is failure. Absolutely, unquestionably. If you just can't win by not having some kind of a plan to get there. You can't say, I want to sell 10 cars. You're welcome, Dan. Thanks so much for joining me. You can't say, I want to sell 10 cars and just hope that it happens. You can't hope the doors will start swinging and the phone will start ringing in November. You can't. You can't hope that's going to happen in December. And for that matter, January. And for that matter, February. You got to make it happen. And you make it happen by creating that plan, step number 8, the blueprint. And, if you can hold yourself accountable to it, kudos to you. Pat yourself on the back. That's fantastic. I know I can't. I had to have a mentor and a coach hold me accountable to it. Someone to say, hey, send that to me. So do that. I'll be your coach and your mentor. And I come from a positive perspective. I'm not the rugby coach. Oh, screaming and yelling, you're nothing, you're worthless. You got to try harder. You're a dirtbag. That's not me. I'm the other guy. I'm the positive reinforcement guy. You're welcome, Alex. I'm the guy to say, hey, you can do this. This is possible. Let's see where you're not having traction and not getting success with it. That's going to be our conversations. Anyhow, call me, text me, voicemail. 705-350-0811. Oh, you know what I should be doing is I should turn off the recording. Just makes